Pay attention to the laptop screen in this grainy security footage from March 15th, 2023. The timestamp reads 2:47 a.m. Major David Pierce sits alone in a communications trailer at Ramstein Air Base, Germany. He is 34 years old. He has been deployed for 7 months. The blue glow illuminates his face as he opens an email attachment his wife Jennifer sent 3 hours earlier. She is 32. She lives in their home in Syracuse, New York. Within 11 minutes of opening that attachment, Major Pierce will compose a response that destroys a marriage, triggers a military investigation, and exposes a conspiracy that reaches into the highest levels of base security. The attachment was not what Jennifer claimed it was. It was evidence of a scheme that had been running for the entire length of his deployment. Major David Pierce grew up in Rochester, New York, the son of 2 public school teachers. He joined the Army at 22, straight out of SUNY Albany with a degree in mechanical engineering. He met Jennifer Walsh at a veterans charity event in 2018. She worked as a dental hygienist in Syracuse. They married 14 months later in a small ceremony at Thorndon Park. By all accounts, they were stable. They bought a 3-bedroom house on Nottingham Road in Syracuse in 2021. They had a mortgage, 2 cars, and plans for children after his next deployment cycle. David was responsible with money. Jennifer managed their joint accounts. When he deployed to Germany in August 2022 to oversee logistics operations for NATO, they spoke every day through video calls. Their friends described them as inseparable. Jennifer wore her wedding ring on a chain around her neck, along with David's dog tags. She posted photos of them together on Instagram every week. The caption was always the same: counting down the days. What made David vulnerable was not naivety, it was trust. He had given Jennifer full power of attorney. She had access to every account, every investment, every asset they owned. This was standard military procedure for deployed service members. This was also exactly what made him the perfect target. The scheme began on August 30th, 2022, 16 days after David's deployment. A man named Kyle Thompson sent Jennifer a friend request on Facebook. His profile showed a 36-year-old contractor who worked at Hancock International Airport. He had 400 friends. His photos showed him at Bills games, hiking in the Adirondacks, volunteering at food banks. He looked trustworthy. He was not real. Or rather, Kyle Thompson existed, but the person using his identity was someone else entirely. The real Kyle Thompson lived in Buffalo and had no idea his photos were being used. The messages started casually. Comments on Jennifer's posts about missing David. Sympathetic responses about the difficulties of military life. Then private messages. Conversations about loneliness. About the strain of waiting, about feeling invisible. Brick by digital brick, the predator built a connection. By October 2022, Jennifer and the fake Kyle were meeting for coffee at Recess Coffee on Burnett Avenue. By November, they were meeting 3 times a week. By December, Jennifer had removed her wedding ring from the chain around her neck. By January 2023, she had transferred $18,000 from the joint account David couldn't monitor overseas into a separate account she opened without his knowledge. But Kyle Thompson was not acting alone. He was not even the mastermind. He was a soldier. Staff Sergeant Ryan Kowalski, 29, stationed at Fort Drum, New York. And Jennifer Pierce was not his only target. She was number 7. On March 14, 2023, David Pierce received a notification from Navy Federal Credit Union. An unusual transaction had been flagged. Someone had attempted to withdraw $35,000 from their savings account at 11:20 a.m. Eastern Time. The withdrawal was denied due to insufficient funds. The account that once held $52,000 now contained $3,400. David sent Jennifer an email at 11:45 a.m. Germany time, 5:45 a.m. in New York. No response. He called her cell phone at 12:30 p.m. Straight to voicemail. He called again at 1:15 p.m., again at 2 o'clock p.m. Nothing. By 3 o'clock p.m. Germany time, David contacted Jennifer's sister Amanda, who lived in Albany. Amanda drove to the Nottingham Road house at 4:30 p.m. Jennifer's car was in the driveway. The front door was locked. Amanda used her spare key inside. The house was empty. Jennifer's phone was on the kitchen counter, powered off. Her purse was on the bedroom dresser. Her laptop was open on the dining room table, still logged into her email account. The screen showed a draft message to David. It was never sent. It was an apology. It began, "I don't know how to tell you this." Amanda called the Syracuse Police Department at 5:47 p.m. The case was initially classified as a domestic issue, not an emergency. Jennifer was an adult. There were no signs of struggle. The responding officer took a statement and left at 7:15 p.m. But David Pierce was not satisfied. At 6:30 p.m. Germany time, 12:30 p.m. New York time, he contacted his commanding officer. Within 2 hours, the case was transferred to the Army Criminal Investigation Division. What CID investigators found on Jennifer's laptop collapsed the runaway theory within 24 hours. Her browsing history showed searches for how to transfer money internationally and divorce while spouse deployed. Her email contained correspondence with a divorce attorney in Syracuse, dated March 10th. But more significantly, her Facebook messages told a different story. The digital forensics team traced the IP addresses of Kyle Thompson's messages. They did not originate from Syracuse, they came from Fort Drum, 70 miles north. The account was accessed from military housing, barracks computers, and a personal device registered to Staff Sergeant Ryan Kowalski. On March 16th, investigators ran Kowalski's name through military databases. What they found was a pattern. Over 18 months, 6 other military spouses had filed complaints about financial irregularities while their partners were deployed. 4 involved men who met the spouses through social media using fake profiles. 2 cases mentioned a person matching Kowalski's description. One spouse, Rebecca Martinez from Fort Campbell, Kentucky, had lost $47,000 to someone claiming to be a civilian contractor. Another, Angela Thornton from 29 Palms, California, had been convinced to liquidate her husband's retirement account, $93,000, by someone she met on Facebook who called himself Jake Sullivan. The breakthrough came on March 17th when investigators obtained Kowalski's phone records. He had communicated with Jennifer Pierce 847 times since September 2022, but his phone also showed contact with 11 other women across 8 military installations. All were married to deployed service members. All had power of attorney. All had been targeted systematically. Staff Sergeant Ryan Kowalski was a logistics specialist at Fort Drum. He had been in the Army for 11 years. He was married. He had 2 children, ages 8 and 5. His wife, Christine, taught elementary school in Watertown. His neighbors described him as friendly, helpful, a good father. He coached his son's Little League team. He volunteered at his daughter's school. His public Facebook profile showed family photos, camping trips, birthday parties. His service record was unremarkable. No disciplinary issues, no red flags. He was invisible in the way predators often are, hiding in plain sight behind the uniform and the smile. On March 18, 2023, CID agents arrested Kowalski at his home on Fort Drum at 6:15 a.m. His wife watched from the doorway, holding their children. The agents executed a search warrant. What they seized from his home office was damning. 3 burner phones, a laptop containing 27 fake social media profiles, a ledger documenting transfers and account numbers, printed driver's license photos of his targets, and a folder labeled active containing Jennifer Pierce's banking information, power of attorney documents, and handwritten notes about David's deployment schedule. But Kowalski did not act shocked. He did not protest. When agents placed him in handcuffs, he smirked. He said 4 words, "You found the accounts?" In interrogation, Kowalski revealed a conspiracy that extended beyond lonely spouses and stolen funds. He was not the architect. He was the recruiter. The digital ghost who made contact, built trust, isolated the targets. The money he extracted did not stay with him. It flowed to a network. His commanding officer, Lieutenant Colonel Michael Brennan, 43, oversaw the entire operation. Brennan used his position to identify deployed soldiers whose spouses had power of attorney and substantial assets. He provided Kowalski with names, deployment dates, and financial profiles obtained through unauthorized access to military personnel records. Two other soldiers at Fort Drum were involved. Sergeant First Class Anthony Ruiz, 38, who handled cryptocurrency conversions, and Specialist Emma Harding, 25, who created the fake social media profiles and maintained them. The operation had been running since January 2021. It had targeted 34 military spouses across 12 installations. The estimated total theft exceeded $1.8 million. The money was laundered through shell companies, cryptocurrency wallets, and offshore accounts. Brennan had used his share to purchase rental properties in Texas and Florida. Kowalski had paid off his mortgage and bought a boat. But Jennifer Pierce had become a problem. She had grown suspicious in early March when Kowalski pressured her to wire money to an account in Panama. She threatened to tell David. On March 14th, Kowalski drove to Syracuse. Security footage from a gas station on Interstate 81 showed his vehicle traveling south at 9:47 a.m. He arrived at the Nottingham Roadhouse at 11:30 a.m. On March 19, 2023, FBI and CID agents executed simultaneous raids at Fort Drum, seizing computers, phones, and financial records. Lieutenant Colonel Brennan was arrested at his office at 10 a.m. Ruiz and Harding were taken into custody within the hour. By March 20th, federal warrants were issued for bank records across 7 states. Jennifer Pierce was found on March 21, 2023. Search teams located her body in a wooded area off State Route 11, 12 miles south of Fort Drum. She had been deceased for 7 days. The medical examiner determined the cause of death was blunt force trauma to the head. She had been struck with a tire iron recovered from Kowalski's vehicle. Evidence showed she had been killed between 11:45 a.m. and 12:30 p.m. on March 14th, the same window when David was trying to reach her from Germany. Major David Pierce returned to the United States on March 23rd. He identified his wife's body at the Onondaga County Medical Examiner's office. He was 34 years old. He had been married for 4 years. He attended her funeral at Holy Cross Cemetery in Syracuse on March 28th. He wore his dress uniform. He did not cry. When asked by reporters what Staff Sergeant Ryan Kowalski was charged with first-degree murder, conspiracy to commit wire fraud, identity theft, and racketeering. He was convicted on all counts in February 2024. He was sentenced to life in prison without parole, plus 45 years. Lieutenant Colonel Michael Brennan received 35 years for conspiracy, fraud, and obstruction. Sergeant First Class Anthony Ruiz received 18 years. Specialist Emma Harding cooperated with prosecutors and received 8 years with the possibility of parole. The 4 convictions represented the largest military spouse fraud conspiracy in U.S. Army history. The victims recovered less than $300,000 of the $1.8 million stolen. Major David Pierce recovered nothing. The house on Nottingham Road was sold to cover legal fees. He remains on active duty. He has never remarried.